busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
It's midday. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra. Also live on our numerous affiliates across the country, around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the tuning app from the Google Play, Apple iOS store, and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, Steering Committee of Governing New Patriotic Party to meet this afternoon following petition by 9 flag bearer aspirants over modalities for special delegates, a Congress slated for August 26th. We're live to the meeting venue and hear from some of the aspirants on their concerns in relation to that elections. Meanwhile, the party is expected to release a final register for the special delegate much later this week. Also this afternoon, ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Okudzeto Ablakwa, raises questions over what he says is open complicity of Ghana's presidency in the dual identity of the secretary to the board of the National Cathedral Project, Reverend Kusi Boateng. He is demanding answers following a letter from the presidency demanding a diplomatic passport be handed in another name to the embattled secretary. Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CADEO, raised concerns over lack of timetable for the district level election slated for October 3. Much later, though, the Supreme Court has granted businessman Dr. Pa Kwesi Endom the go-ahead to challenge the revocation of his GN Bank's license at the High Court. Details if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well. I am Eric Mauwena Egbeta. Let's get into the details. And we're starting off on the front of politics, where the Steering Committee of the Governing New Patriotic Party is meeting this afternoon over the National Congress by the Special Electoral College scheduled for Saturday, August 26th. It follows a petition filed by 9 out of the 10 flag bearer aspirants concerning the modalities for the special votes to prune down the number of contestants for the November 4 Delegate Congress. The aspirant Alan Kojo Chairman Boachie Jako, Dr. Uswe Friyakuto, Dr. Kofi Keredwa Preku, Kwabna Japan, Kennedy Japan, Adainimo, Kojo Poku, and Joe Gate are seeking a centralized national congress by the Special Electoral College. They claim it will be a waste of resources to decentralize the exercise. They also contend it will afford them the opportunity to address the delegates before the Congress. Sources say the Vice President is the only aspirant in favor of the proposal to have a decentralized special college. William Evansinkum has been following up on that petition and the concerns. Joins us on the telephone lines with a bit more. So Evans, we've been touching a bit more on the petition, but walk us through the details as you have it.
All right. So in 2014, there was a similar situation like this where the election or the Special Delegate Congress was actually decentralized. That is to say, at every regional level, the delegates had opportunity to vote. But this time around, what the aspirants are saying is that they want the system centralized. They are saying this because they feel that if that is accepted, then it is going to foster unity. Of course, it's also going to afford all the aspirants to have at least to share their vision with the delegates. Mind you, we are talking about 891 delegates. But beyond the sharing of vision, there are other critical, issues that they have also raised, reasons why they want the system to be centralized. I have been engaging the former Member of Parliament for Mention of Constituency, who is also one of the 6 persons for Alan Kojo Chairman, calling to Usomankwa, and he gives us more reasons. Let's listen to him.
Let me state it here that New Patriotic Party is not a fan club. It's a political party be governed by the Constitution. Per the Constitution, provisions are made for Special Electoral College. And let me also state that there's nowhere in our constitution which calls for decentralized conference at the regional level. Well, it was adopted or moved by some people through National Council in 2014 to have it at the regional level. That cannot be a cardinal precedent in the first place. What we are calling for is that, first of all, the number is not overwhelming. We're talking about 891 delegates, which we could converge in one centralized location to conduct it peacefully. I think it ensures more transparency, accountability, and security, and it also minimizes coercion, intimidation, and also extreme machination by the powers that be. And we would make sure that decision coming from the National Council will definitely be in tandem with this popular proposal being pushed by 9 out of 10 presidential hopefuls. And it beats my imagination that 9 out of 10 would push for something and the party will look on. No, I don't think that way. I think National Council would definitely affirm the proposal made by the 9 presidential hopefuls.
So Evans, that's the former Menchia North MP Collins Owusu-Amankwa. So the meeting is expected later today. We are there to cover it, but we don't know beyond this the full details of the petition as well.
Well, absolutely no, but it does appear that this formed the nucleus of the petition that they have actually presented before the National Executive Council or the steering committee to consider. This is the nucleus of it.
Right then, that's William Evansinkomi. He's my colleague, providing a bit more details there for us in relation to the concerns that have been raised by the various 9 out of the 10 aspirants who have been raising concerns. And we know that the meeting will kick off in some minutes. My colleague Evelyn Tingma is there, but also related to this is the release of the special delegate list, which will be undertaking that exercise on August 26th, and who are expected to be on that list. Let's just walk you through what the constitution of the governing New Patriotic Party says. And so the membership of that particular delegate conference would include the National Council, the National Executive Committee, the Regional Executive Committees, National Council of Elders, members of Parliament, 3 representatives of each of the special organs of the party, past national officers, 3 representatives each from every external branch, founding members during the registration of the party at the Electoral Commission, that is if they're still alive, and all New Patriotic Party card-bearing ministers when the party is in government, and every delegate shall be entitled to 1 vote. And so that's what the constitution of the NPP is saying in relation to this particular matter. Let's take you to the Congress, the event grounds. Now, Evelyn Tingma is there for us. Let's just touch base and get an understanding as to exactly what it is that's happening. Evelyn, you've been there. Is it the case that they began to arrive?
Mauwena, good afternoon. As I speak now, I can only see Richard Ahiagba, and he's the only person who just arrived here. I had wanted to speak to him, but he says he wants to check in there to see how preparations are ongoing in the auditorium. So he's the only person from the party who is here currently. But the meeting, we understand, is supposed to start at 1 p.m. And so we've been to the hall and we've seen that the workers here at the hotel are putting finishing touches to the place and arranging everything. But so far, it's only Richard Ahiagba, who is here. Mauwena.
Right then, Evelyn, many thanks for providing those updates. And so what there here on your election command center, I'll provide details for you as and when it does come to. But on the concerns of the various individuals were hoping to get at least thoughts from the campaign team of Kennedy Ohene Japan as well. Francis Boateng will join us on the telephone line. As and when we're able to get him on the phone, we'll do that for you here on 3FM 92.7. But away from this, to rather also interesting matters, and in what is an ending twist of event to the dual identity saga of Secretary to the National Cathedral Project, Reverend Kusi Boateng, latest documents have revealed alleged complicity from the presidency over the issue, which has been labeled as bordering on criminality by a High Court judge. A ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has made public a purported letter from the Office of the President granting approval for a diplomatic passport to be issued to Reverend Kusi Boateng under the name Kwabena Edu Gyamfi. And the development, according to the MP, raises concerns about the level of due diligence carried out at the highest office of the land. So what are the letters or which have been cited, which we have seen here as well at 3FM? And so it's a letter dated the 10th of November 2021. It's from the Office of the President and Secretary to the President. That's the letterhead. And request for diplomatic passport, Mr. Kwabena Edu Gyamfi, and there's into bracket aka Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng. And the statement reads that I write to inform you that approval has been granted for the issuance of a diplomatic passport in favor of Mr. Kwabena Edu Gyamfi, aka Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, member or Secretary of the National Cathedral of Ghana Board of Trustees, to enable him to undertake official assignments abroad. It would therefore be appreciated if you could kindly grant approval for a diplomatic passport to be issued to him. And it was signed by Nana Bedieto Asante, who's Secretary to the President. We're hoping to get a bit more on this for you here on 3FM 92.7. And as and when we're able to even raise the Member of Parliament in question who's been making these revelations as well, we'll bring that to you here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. To some other matters now, where the Supreme Court has given businessman and politician Dr. Pa Kwesi Ndum the green light to challenge the revocation of the license of GN Bank at the High Court. This follows a judgment by the Apex Court overturning an earlier decision of the Court of Appeal barring the bank from challenging the withdrawal of its license. GN Bank was among many financial institutions whose operating permits were revoked by the Bank of Ghana in 2018 as part of the banking sector cleanup exercise. Let's get on the phone Franco Uso for his head of corporate affairs at Group Indum. Pick thoughts from him. So many thanks, Mr. Usofori. So for you at Group Indum, what does the ruling mean first off?
Good afternoon to you, Mauwena, and to your listeners. So first and foremost, we just want to give God all the glory. If you look at Jeremiah 29:11, it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope." So we are very delighted. And for us at Group Indum, this means that the case, the GM Bank case, is eventually coming to an end. Why am I saying that? We filed the case in August 2019, and this coming August will be exactly 4 years. And now that the Supreme Court has given this verdict, it means we are going back to the High Court to continue. And we trust and pray that as we found favor with the 5 panel justices, the Lord would also give us favor at the High Court. Thank you very much.
You're going back to the High Court. Is it the case that the case you have pending in the High Court will have to restart off of this judgment, or it will be a continuation?
Hello?
Can you hear me,
Sorry.
sir?
The line is very bad.
I was asking if this means that the challenge of the revocation of your licenses unfortunately, we've lost Mr. Frank Owusu-Ofori on the telephone lines, and we'll seek to raise him on the phone lines again and get a bit more. But we're returning to conversations on elections, this time having to do with the district level elections. And the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers is questioning the absence of an electoral timetable towards the district level elections slated for October. The 2023 district level elections is expected to be held on October 3. The Electoral Commission, at a forum organized somewhere in June, announced the date, October 3, 2023, for this year's elections. But a month after the announcement, no timetable has been submitted. Director of Programs and Policy Engagement at CDD, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni, has been stressing the need for an electoral timetable from the EC to guide preparations.
We are still waiting for the Electoral Commission to let us know whether or not it is coming off in October. We haven't gotten the electoral calendar yet. But from Okodeo, we are still trying to solicit for support to observe the elections. So if somebody is moved, by the Spirit, please see me after.
That's Dr. Kojo Asante Pumpuni's Director of Programs and Policy Engagement at TDD. We've been seeking to get responses from the Electoral Commission. They say that it's all still in the works. As and when that is ready, they'll comment officially on it. And so that's about it for now in terms of the district level elections. We're returning to the conversation of the governing New Patriotic Party and the concerns as raised by some of the aspirants in relation to the mode in which the Congress will be held here on August 26th. I mentioned that we'll engage a member of the Kennedy Japan campaign team for quick reactions. But you're listening to the news. You're on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927. Same handles on Twitter as well. Francis Boateng has joined us. He's one of the members of the Kennedy Japan campaign team. Many thanks, Mr. Boateng, for speaking to us this afternoon. And so the concern has been raised largely for you in the Kennedy Japan campaign team. What is the abhorrence to the decision to have these elections, or this Congress rather, held nationwide?
Let me first thank you for this call, and let me also say hi to your cherished listeners. My brother, let me say that we are in support of the centralized conference system due to the fact that we all know, and it is not a secret, that most or maybe all of our regional chairmen are in support of His Excellency the Vice President. Whether they are being whipped or they have taken that decision by themselves, we don't know. But I think some of them are openly supporting the candidature of the Vice President.
Right.
Okay. So if we decentralize, let's say in the Upper East or Upper West region, where all the total voters or total electoral college is 28 people. You go there and you see 25 policemen. You see 18 military officers. You see the regional minister. You see all MPs, because most of the MPs are saying that they are also in support of His Excellency the Vice President. So if you go and see all these people, around about 50 people who are helping the organization, and also some of them voters, don't you think that if there is one or two chairmen or 5 or 10 people who want to vote for any other candidate, don't you think they can be intimidated? So if you have a centralized system and everybody is voting, maybe my candidate, Canada Japan, will be there, Honorable Boache Jaku will be there, all their agents will be there, and note that the number of people voting is about 900. It is less than one polling station election in this country. Okay? So if you do it in that manner, I personally think that people can be intimidated to vote in another way. And if you want to identify those who voted for and who voted against, it can be done with 28 people. Maybe we have ballot papers AAA1, AAA2. So if this person voted in the second place, I can see that this person voted for His Excellency the Vice President or voted for my candidate, Kennedy Japan. So to avoid all these things, what we have to do is that let's do it at one place so that we all have our peace.
And what happens if the party or the steering committee does not agree to these concerns?
Well, my brother, I cannot tell you what will be done. I have not been briefed about what will be done. I think that when we get to the bridge, we'll cross it.
And just finally, will your candidate be at this meeting, the steering committee meeting?
Yes. He flew in yesterday from the tour in the Upper East, and he's currently at the meeting.
Right then, many thanks, Mr. Boateng. Francis Boateng is a member of the Kennedy Japan campaign team, speaking to us as we continue to monitor the processes here on your election command center. We'll be providing details to you as and when it continues to come through here on your election command center. And this afternoon, in other stories, education to be specific, the headmistress of the West African Senior High School, Shine, Agatha Ofori, has been interdicted for unauthorized collection of money from students. A press release issued by the Ghana Education Service on Thursday directed that she hands over the administration of the school to the Regional Director of Education until a final determination of the case by the Regional Disciplinary Committee. She will be barred from any official duty regarding the school. This is not the first time the GES has undertaken such action against heads of second cycle institutions. Earlier this year, the headmaster of the Fijai Senior High School in Sekunde, Kenneth Agbomaji, was also interdicted for same. He was reinstated in May after a committee tasked to investigate the case cleared him of any wrongdoing. We're staying on the front of education, this time on food suppliers under the National Food Buffer Stock Company Limited, because they have begun to receive payment following the picketing at the Buffer Stock Company. George Queenan has been following up on the story, joins us on the telephone line with a bit more details. George, money beginning to hit the account?
Yeah, so Mauwena, yes, if you come to the premises of Buffer Stock, there are the suppliers here in the queue waiting to receive their checks. A couple of them have received their money. So those that are staying in Accra have left, but those that are coming from outside Accra are still here. So the minister confirmed that some 100 million cedis was, transferred into the account of Buffer Stock. And so what the suppliers were expecting is the 2-year arrears, they are going to get 50% of that. But it's not what it is. It's half of 2022. What that means is it's left with half of 2022 and the full of 2023. Yes, they've taken the checks, but they're not happy at heart. So according to the secretary, they are waiting for all the members to take the money, and from there they will take their next line of action.
Right then, George, many thanks for those details. That's George Queenan. It's been following up on the protest, the picketing of the food suppliers and the National Food Buffer Stock Company Limited. Now they are beginning to receive part payment of the monies owed them by the state. Not exactly excited, as they were hoping to receive it all in full. As you heard George Queenan say, they will decide on their next line of action. But let's take it to Parliament, where some agencies and institutions under the Communications Ministry, they've been answering questions before the Public Accounts Committee from infractions in payment vouchers, tenancy agreement, and some losses. The committee has recommended to the institutions to regularize their financial systems and operations. The Data Protection Commission has also served notice to sanction telecommunications companies that release data of their customers to bulk SMS providers. Answering a question from Clementa Park, the Busa South MP, the executive director of the commission, Patricia Edusei-Poku, says it is illegal for customers to receive unsolicited messages from entities.
Database to address the issues, and we've made several recommendations for implementation to stop access to the civil service database.
So is it the provider of the service who should be held accountable? In this case, a telecom company, or the source from which I receive the unsolicited messages? This is important because many Ghanaians are victims. I can give you several examples. including receiving a message from the Vice President on my birthday. And I know I'm not giving him my number. So we need to know.
Honorable Chair, we are addressing the issue with both the source of the data and the telecoms, addressing it and directing them to implement some policies that will mitigate these risks. But the public are also allowed to complain directly to the Commission. And we have several of these complaints on our file.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll be filing a series of complaints. I'm grateful. All right.
So the interaction from the Public Accounts Committee there, as and when, we'll be bringing you details from the committee sitting. But to health now, where the first dose takers dominated day one of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination at the Ghan West municipality with a target of 2,000 people per day. 950 people received the COVID vaccination as day one of the exercise in the district took off. As of 3 p.m. Wednesday, only 7 people are turned up at the static center located at the Amasaman Government Hospital with 5 first-timers. Disease Control Officer at the Amasaman Government Hospital says misconceptions about the vaccine dominate the reasons why people have not taken the vaccine or continue to refuse to receive the jabs.
It's not very encouraging, but we are trying to get the people to take the vaccines. Our target for the day is 40 people a day. But as at now, from morning around 7 o'clock up till now, we had only 5 people who came to take the first dose of the vaccine, and 1 person came to take the booster. The perception is that they have misconceptions that some of them, when you take it, you might not be able to erect. That is to the aspect of the men. Then the women, they say they will not get pregnant and stuff. That is the reason why they delayed in taking the vaccination.
Well, reports from the mobile teams that went into the communities were no different. Another team from the China Mall area had 13 people and 10 first-time doses and 3 receiving booster shots. Henry Osayakoto is administrator at the Ghan West Municipal Health Directorate. He's also been providing details as to first-timers and the likes.
The few facilities I have visited, we realize that we have more of first-time, people rather than those coming for boosters. We are giving only J&J. That's what we have now, and that's what we are giving out. We have enough to be able to meet our target. You can't convince everyone, but we are still doing our best as health professionals to sensitize these people. And I think that is what the response is, what we are having so far.
That's Henry Osayakoto. He is the administrator at the Ghan West Municipal Hospital. You're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. Now, there's an urgent call on Parliament to intervene in Ghanaian children being taken from their homes in an operation backed by one of the world's leading anti-slavery organizations, the International Justice Mission, in the Afram Plains area of the Eastern region. The BBC Africa Eye investigation revealed that the multi-million-dollar charity International Justice Mission that aims to rescue trafficked children and reunite them with their families wrongfully labeled these children as slaves clandestinely to suit an international agenda. The Member of Parliament for Afram Plains North, Betty Crosby, says state security has been complicit in the operations and Parliament must take keen interest.
It's unfortunate rescue of Ghanaian children in the name of trafficking. I think this issue has been on my table for quite some time now. In 2017, those of you who remember, where I did a number of statements concerning the rates with which anytime NGOs felt that they needed children or they needed victims to parade in their various organizations, they rushed to the Volta Lake and rescued children from my constituency. And so again, it didn't come to me as a surprise when the BBC did their thorough work, and in the end, it came to the limelight that these NGOs were more of a targeted institution who were trying so much to meet their annual target. And so it didn't really matter whether indeed these children were actual victims or they were not. And so with me, I don't think the objective of rescue, because of course when it comes to issues of trafficking, they are serious subjects and serious matters that need to be addressed. However, I feel that their mode of operating or the way of going about their business is not one of the best, and I feel we should regulate their activities and see how best we can protect the ordinary Ghanaian child, as well as making sure that real perpetrators are brought to book. Parliament has a very big role to play in this very matter, because you realize that first and foremost, Parliament constitutes the people's representatives. I mean, we are MPs coming from various constituencies, and I must tell you that when it comes to this IJM issue, it's not just limited to reverend communities. They go to farming communities as well. So every MP that has some rural constituency to his name should be concerned about the issue. Again, I also realize that most of these NGOs are using our own.
So that's the Member of Parliament for the Afram Plains area there, ending this afternoon's edition of the news here on 3FM 92.7. The business team is ready and waiting. Bismarck Awusa is here with the very latest. I am Eric Mauwena Egbeta. Log on to 3news.com for a lot more news.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Business Daily with me, Bismarck Awusa. Coming up, Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, says gold smuggling is on the rise due to government's Gold for Oil program. We will hear from its Executive Director, Ben Boache.
It's not making money available for both places. And smuggling is on a wild scale. People with illicit cash are the ones buying the gold, instead of the channels that we had where revenues were coming through our designated ports, and then a tax of 1.5 was applied to those revenues. That tax has been waived, all right, because the Bank of Ghana said it was going to buy the gold through the PMMC. So we are losing revenue on that front. And then we have, some middlemen that have been engaged by the Bank of Ghana and PMMC at different terms. And there is no clarity and transparency around how these procurements even happen. Smuggling has always been high. If you compare the import data from Dubai and India to our export data, they always don't match. There's a huge gap. So for us to now build a policy that worsens our situation, it's good that IMF wants to review it, but there is no conversation with the Ghanaian public on how that is being achieved.
That was Executive Director of ACEP, Ben Boache, speaking at a workshop on media interface on Ghana's 17th IMF bailout, where he called for transparency in the process of reviewing the policy. Moving on, a successful external debt restructuring will help Ghana get $10 billion out of $15 billion fiscal gap. Director of Research at IEA, Dr. John Kwachi, notes that the IMF bailout is not funded. He suggests government must indulge in fiscal adjustments for a successful program.
Restructuring, which is going to be a huge part of the financing of the program, 10 billion out of 15. And then the fiscal, the question is, if we don't get that, fiscal adjustment, is that not an alternative? Because that's what we have proposed, that if they could do a lot of fiscal adjustment, then we will not even need the pain that's been inflicted on people through debt restructuring will not have actually occurred. So the fiscal adjustment, we should also press for them.
That was Director of Research at IEA, Dr. John Kwachi. An economist and risk analyst, Dr. Theo Ichampon, has described as an uphill task for government to target inflation rate of below 30% by end year. Taking his turn at the workshop on media interface on Ghana's 17th IMF bailout, he said there is the need for improved import substitution to control the rising prices of goods on the market.
There are a number of things there, for example, whether or not we'll be able to get, we're now entering the bumper season, so whether or not we'll be able to get enough of the local produce quickly to the markets to substitute for some of the imported food products, given that food inflation is one of the major drivers over here. And then also the extent to which we will see, for example, the CD maintaining its relative stability and the cost or the push-through effects of that to other sectors of the economy. But yes, there's a bit of a turnaround here. The question mark is when we'll be able to get to the pre-pandemic levels of the central bank's target of 6 to 10% inflation for the monetary policy framework.
That was economist and risk analyst Dr. Theo Echampong. Moving on, the World Bank is calling for more efforts to boost the country's agricultural sector as a means of tackling inflation. This comes on the back of a report from the Bretton Woods institution that the challenge had pushed some 850,000 Ghanaians into poverty last year. Michael Obodu has the rest of the story.
In 2022, Ghana experienced a severe economic crisis characterized by soaring inflation rates. The year-on-year inflation rate surged from 14% in January to a staggering 54% in December, making it the highest inflation level seen since the early 2000s. This inflation spike had devastating consequences for food security and poverty in the country. The rising prices of food, which outpaced the increase in non-food items, hit the poorest segment of the population the hardest. As a result, the real purchasing power of Ghanaians plummeted. The World Bank report estimates that the inflation crisis in Ghana pushed an additional 3.5 million people into extreme poverty in 2022. The crisis also had a negative impact on food security, with the number of people facing hunger increasing by 2.3 million. What then could be the way forward in addressing the challenge?
When it comes to food insecurity, we have to beef up the agricultural sector, because that's really how prices, it can impact prices as far as food is concerned. And in doing that, we have to empower farmers to be able to react to the global issues fast enough. Definitely food prices will come down and therefore impact on the affordability.
Economist Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Bafo is of the view that efforts must be made to produce key agricultural inputs locally to help address inflation.
The issue that sticks out is the fact that the high cost of fertilizer is translating directly into the cost of food. And as a country, I think that we should look at alternatives of domestic production of fertilizer, and so that we can wean ourselves off the dependence on import of these things that will have a direct impact on the prices of goods and services.
That was a report by my colleague Michael Obodu. Before we go, the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana has reiterated calls for government to undertake in-depth feasibility and economic impact analysis of its decision to restrict imports of rice, poultry, among other commodities. According to Executive Director of the association, if government does not reconsider its decision, this could result in price hikes. Government has hinted of an ally to regulate imports of some commodities Ghanaians consume, often which have competitive advantage to produce locally.
For credibility of this policy, there should have been visible massive investment in the rice and poultry sectors. As the same policy document highlights, poultry farmers can hardly find day-old chicks to buy, nor do they even have proper processing equipment. Even the chicken we call local chicken, how local are they? The day-old chicks are imported from Holland or even Morocco. The current poultry producers can hardly satisfy the demand of even the supermarkets. The quest of the government to create the quota system for rice and chicken imports is a recipe for complete corruption, daylight robbery. Who does the allocation? And what is the person's interest against the collective interest of the nation?
And that will be all for Business Daily with me, Bismarck Awusa.